Alright, what's happening, y'all? Looks like the Redskins are signing all the linebackers, ain't it? It's your boy Rico from RicoScores. Just gonna talk about the linebackers that the Redskins have signed today. Let's get it. Alright, first of all, I want to talk about Kevin Pierre-Louis because I know a lot of y'all saw it and was like, who? He was a 4th round pick by the Seahawks in 2014, and since then he's already played for the Seahawks, the Bears, the Jets, and the Chiefs. We got him for 1 year on a deal that's worth up to $3.45 million with playtime incentives. And luckily for us, he's coming off of his best season of his career. In 14 games last year, starting in 3 of them, he recorded 37 tackles with 3 passes defense and 1 interception. He also played the 3rd most special team snaps for the Bears last year, so he's definitely also a special teams contributor. But defensively, with the Redskins switching to a 4-3, I'm assuming that he will be a great depth piece. We'll see how the whole competition works out because the Redskins already just re-signed Jon Bostic. We already have Sean Hamilton, who's my favorite out of the linebacker group with the most potential, other than Reuben Foster, of course, but he's hurt. We're not sure if he'll even be ready come September. Then you have promising rookie Cole Holcomb, who's probably our best run-stopping linebacker out of everybody, but his coverage skills need a lot of work. He was a liability there, but Ron Rivera said he loves his skill set, so he's probably going to be featured quite a bit. Then you also have Ryan Anderson, who I assume will play the Sam linebacker role, who's improved mightily in coverage and in pass rush ability. So this linebacker room doesn't have just a surefire Pro Bowler Hall of Famer yet. We don't just have a straight dog proven product yet, except for who I'm going to talk about next. And Thomas Davis, but he's older, so we're not sure if we're going to get that out of him. But back to what I was saying about Kevin. Pro Football Focus has noted that the last 4 weeks of 2019, he played at least 40 snaps in each of those games, and they gave him a total grade of 89.3, a pass rush grade of 86.9, and a coverage grade of 90. So I'm going to start watching some film on him to truly give y'all a real in-depth look into his skill set once I talk about him again. But for now, based off of what I'm seeing and what I'm reading everywhere, he's good at pass rushing. He should be very dependable in coverage, which is something a lot of our linebackers, especially last year, couldn't say. I mean, it just sounds like the Redskins are saying, just bring in all of these linebackers, let them compete, see who's the best out of them, and start them. And keep the rest as depth, and then just release whoever doesn't show up. Because you got to remember, we still have Josh Harvey-Clemens too, who is probably our best coverage linebacker, period. And he put on all of that weight before the 2019 season so he could actually be effective against the run, so that he could actually potentially start. But then he got hurt. So don't forget about Josh Harvey-Clemens also. He used to be a hybrid safety linebacker, but then he added a lot of muscle and a lot of weight. And then he wanted to actually become a true full-time starting inside linebacker, but then he got hurt. According to Kevin Pierre-Louis's combine, he's also relatively explosive and athletic. So this may be a moldable clay that the Redskins are trying to work with. Ron Rivera, Jack Del Rio, see if he gets better over time like he already did. I mean, last season was his most productive season by far in his career, and maybe they're expecting him to escalate in skill set and production going forward. But for right now, definitely don't expect him to compete for a starting spot with this crowded linebacker room. And now to the other linebacker that we just signed as of today, literally just a few minutes ago as I'm recording this. Thomas Davis, 3-time Pro Bowler, 1-time All-Pro, that's big news. Reunites with Ron Rivera, had his best years in Carolina under Ron Rivera alongside Luke Kuechly. And he also had 112 tackles last year, so he may still have something left in the tank. We'll see. But before I dive into Thomas Davis and what he brings to this team and what I hope he can do, even at the age that he is, I do want to talk about how I'm sick the Redskins did not get Cory Littleton. The former Rams linebacker, Cory Littleton, just signed with the Raiders a few hours ago for a 3-year, $36 million deal. And at its base is $11.75 million a year, and I do not understand why the Redskins didn't go and pull that trigger. I can see their strategy was to bring in as many average to good guys as possible, but Cory Littleton is one of those almost elite linebackers. He was my favorite linebacker on the market out of this entire free agency. I like him way better than Blake Martinez. So I'm a little sick that we didn't go get him, especially since he's getting paid less money than I expected. So I'm very surprised we didn't go get him for that money. But the Raiders got him. Shouts out to the Raiders for making a really good move. That was a very smart move on y'all part. I mean, he was the only linebacker in the NFL last year to register 90 plus tackles and miss one or fewer games. And even just beyond that, he's one of the best coverage linebackers in the league, like top 5. So he could have filled in that will linebacker spot perfectly while we wait for Reuben Foster to get healthy. But like I said earlier, we already have a lot of ifs and possibilities and maybes in the linebacker group, and we're going to just throw them all out there during training camp and all of that and see who works out, I guess. So back to Thomas Davis. I would prefer him to be brought in as a coach just because I'm scared that he might not have a lot left in the tank. But we'll see what he does on the field. And a lot of how I feel about him will depend on how much we're actually paying him. Dang, I'm just seeing that KD has coronavirus. That is crazy. But one of the best parts of signing Thomas Davis is that he won't affect compensatory picks since the Chargers released him. He was cut, so he won't affect our compensatory pick formula if he goes out and balls this next year. But Thomas Davis is 36 years old, which is really high up there in football in general, but especially a position like linebacker that requires quite a bit of athleticism. I mean, you could be Sean Lee and be really, really smart, and even though you're slow, you're still making plays just off of how well you predict opposing offenses. But still, overall, you really want athletic linebackers. And at 36 years old, we got to see how much athleticism he has left in him. But even though Pro Football Focus gave him a 61.7 grade last year with the Chargers, under Ron Rivera in Carolina, 5 out of 8 seasons, he graded 70 or above. In 2 of those seasons, he was graded over 80. One of those seasons being his All-Pro season. He made 3 Pro Bowls and an All-Pro, like I said earlier. So what are some positives that Thomas Davis brings to the team? Well, first of all, he brings culture. That's like one of the main things. I'm pretty sure that's one of the main reasons Ron Rivera went and got him. I'm pretty sure that's like the majority of it. Ron Rivera is trying to instill a culture that's very similar to the one he had at Carolina, very disciplined and all of that type of stuff. And with his 8 years under Ron Rivera, he definitely knows how Ron Rivera likes to run a team and will definitely bring some of that culture with him to the Redskins and infiltrate it from the linebacker group. Also, speaking of culture, Kevin Pierre-Louis is a big military guy, so I'm pretty sure Ron Rivera liked that, and that's probably why we signed him. But back to Thomas Davis, along with the culture that he brings, like I said, even though Pro Football Focus gave him a low grade last season, he still had over 110 tackles, and he was 35 last year, so 36 doesn't sound much worse. We'll see what we get out of him. Also, I'm assuming he's cheap. I'm gonna get back to y'all with how much money he makes when I summarize day 2 of free agency at the end of today. But at this point, we do not know how much he's making. I'm assuming it's cheap. It has to be. But the main thing I like, and the reason that I wanted him to come as a coach, is that he will be a great locker room presence and a great veteran presence for the younger guys. Like I named Josh Harvey-Clemens, Sean Deion Hamilton, Cole Holcomb, Reuben Foster, and even John Bostic, who isn't that old, could definitely learn a thing or two from Thomas Davis. So I guess basically we have a coach and a player all in one hybrid in Thomas Davis. Hopefully we brought him in for cheap. But yeah, man, I was sick about us not getting Cory Littleton, but we'll see how this works out, man. I do like the Kevin and Thomas signings, and even though I would have preferred the Redskins to go get the almost elite, possibly elite, arguably elite linebacker in Cory Littleton, the second best thing is just to go out there and sign a bunch of average to good, possibly great linebackers for cheap and let them all compete against each other. The linebacker competition in training camp is going to be crazy. It's actually going to be something to really keep an eye on. I mean, even before we signed Kevin, Thomas Davis, and re-signed John Bostic, the linebacker group was hectic. And also, us bringing in all of these linebackers lets us focus our draft capital towards other positions of need, like tight end and wide receiver, offensive line, and all of that. We may bring in somebody very late in the draft, or we may bring in some undrafted free agents, but as of right now, it looks like the linebacker group is pretty much done being touched. This is it going into training camp, at least notable player-wise. But yeah, man, that's it for this video. Just wanted to give y'all a quick breakdown of the 2 linebackers we signed today and how they may fit into the already crowded linebacker group of the Redskins. I'm going to keep y'all updated on everything that's going on throughout free agency. Tonight, I'm gonna put out a recap of day 2 of Redskins free agency. Because this video, I literally just wanted to talk about the linebacker situation since we just signed 2 notable name linebackers. But tonight, I'm gonna come out with a day 2 of Redskins free agency recap. And I'm gonna keep y'all posted on everything that's going on. So make sure you like this video if you liked it, if you learned anything. Even if you disliked it, please hit that. Just make sure you hit something before you leave. Please subscribe if you haven't. And I appreciate the support. I'll catch y'all later. I'm out.